Hi, a very good evening to you.
And to
Hello,
you,
everyone.
we haven't seen you
Hi,
for a while,
Sonia.
but nice to see you.
You too.
Yeah,
Glad to be here.
good. I hope you can we can have some discussion today about some things. Good evening, John. Good evening. How
Hi,
are you?
Sunil. Hi,
You good?
Sunil. Yeah, good. All good. Thank you.
Good.
Everything good for you?
Yeah, no, it's all good. Yeah, I've
Good.
got your emails. I will respond. I've just been
Okay.
snowed under, so please
All
don't.
right. I know the feeling.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We've been interviewing today as well for some more staff for
All right.
the
Okay.
agency to try and take some pressure off. But yeah, it's positive that it's so busy. You know, the
Yeah.
property market is busy. Um,
Yeah.
it's just like the meeting the other evening in person. There's just a buzz
Yeah.
out there at the moment.
There is a buzz, but I'm nervous about what next Thursday is going to do
Yeah,
because
no,
with the way this government's behaving, God knows what's going to happen.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, you're absolutely right that we don't know what's going to happen. But at the moment, I mean, Paul often comes to the property meeting, but you were there, and there were lots of new people, wasn't there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And sort of property market is where the property market is, or what it will be, or what it will be after next week. But there's a lot of people going, well, this is still the best business because I can still do a
Yeah.
full-time job, and I can still get into buying the properties on the side, and I can build up, etc.
Yeah.
We had Becky there, who's an ex-police officer. I don't know if she's on this evening. I can't see her, but she'd retired early from the police force, got the money, started in property, and she was just explaining about her um, first development that she's done, that she's then going to do service accommodation. So yeah, it's fantastic. But yeah, there is a buzz out there at the moment. As I say, the agency is really busy. People are coming through.
Good.
Yeah. We've had a property on the market for a while, which over in Newington, it's a development, but the bungalow, we've got people coming in with offers now, which again shows that there is movement at this time. So
Yeah. That's the one I looked at? Is that the one in Newington? Yeah.
yeah, you did the development as well as the bungalow. So
Yeah.
we've now accepted an offer today on the bungalow, although it's lower
Oh,
than
good.
expected. But again, we're paying interest, so if we can get our money out, move on,
Yeah.
then that will be
Yeah.
really good. So yeah.
But you're title splitting to keep the development land, are you?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, there's so I do have a plan on here. But it's basically the development, and then there's a piece of land, and there's the bungalow. So we
Yeah.
try to split the three bits in order to get the maximum value.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somebody wanted the whole lot, but many developers were interested in the development of 10 houses from land, like
Yeah.
new builds. That's got the planning, and the plot of 2 hasn't got the planning. So somebody were interested in that, but this guy just wants to develop it to live in the bungalow. So yeah, we'll title split it and do it that way. But yeah, great
Yeah,
question.
good.
Yeah, but there is movement in the market, which there's a lot of people out there just generally.
Country as proud as England of England.
I don't know if anybody else is finding that. I mean, are you finding that in your world?
Who you asking? Anybody?
Yeah, anybody, or Amit's in the finance business, so is it easier out there, Amit, with finance?
Sorry, good evening, everyone. How are you?
Yeah, good. Is it busier out there in the finance market? Are you finding that there's more deals going through?
More deals going through, yeah. It's always active at the moment. Obviously, we're in a bit of a blip, but there's always opportunities and deals to be had. You just need to be connected with the right individuals, deal sources, etc. But what I find is with some of my landlords is the deal actually comes to them rather than them going to actually going to look for it.
Yeah, and you were in the room last week as well, and you brought a new person along, but there was more of a buzz, I was just saying, because of the number of people still entering the property business.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, bricks and mortar is one of those commodities that will always appreciate in value. Yeah. Everything else will go up and down in cycles, but bricks and mortar, as long as you buy it at the right price, it's going to appreciate, and at the same time, you're getting rental income coming in. So it's always a no-brainer, especially if you're looking to, invest into a pension pot.
Yeah. So anybody want to come in? Is there any questions that anybody's got burning this evening, or anybody wants to have a discussion around? And thank you for turning your cameras on. It's the ones that have. If you haven't got your cameras on, I'd really appreciate it if you have your cameras on, because it's better for me in terms of interaction. It's better for you as well, because then you're focused and you may get more value. So please, could you put your cameras on? I was going to say that this is a free Zoom meeting. So I suppose my price for being here this evening is saying, please, can I see you and see your lovely smiles? And I think that's a small price to pay. So thank you if you could put your cameras on. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate that. Yeah, any questions that anybody's got, or anybody wants to discuss anything? Happy to take questions. There's other experts in the room that can help. During the evening, if you have any questions or any topics that you want to discuss, then please put them in the chat and we'll pick them up for the next like month's trainings, not just next month, but going forward, because this is done to actually serve you and what you're looking for, rather than me just standing here and say, let me talk about stuff that I want to talk about. So it's much better if I get requests, I suppose, and I can sing whatever you want. So as no one's got any questions at the moment, what I'll do is I'll go through. Oh, Daniel, sorry, I missed you there.
Yeah, just a quick question, really. With the new government, I was just wondering what opportunities you see with your experience.
I think from what John said earlier, he was saying that, yeah, things are okay at the moment. Things may change next Thursday, is it, John, or Wednesday? I think it's the 25th.
Yeah. No, I think it's the 30th. It's Thursday. I think it's Thursday week.
The budget is end of the month.
Yeah, it's the 30th. Yeah.
So Daniel, what we'll do is we'll put on a special. Let me just give you a date quickly. So Monday the 4th November, 4th of November, we'll put on a special after the budget, because yeah, we can get a speaker like an accountant to come in on that and get some other experts on, so that we'll have a special Zoom meeting just to give you an update. We don't know what's going to happen at the moment. As I was saying, the market is really busy, and I think people are sort of maybe moving in for Christmas or developments, and things are just so positive. And that's not me just being positive. We had 30 people in the room last Wednesday night, and I'd say 50% of them are joining the property industry, joining the property business, rather than exiting. There's more people joining, I think, than exiting from what we're seeing. So 4th of November, we'll do a budget. So in the meantime, what we're doing is reviewing our portfolio. We're reviewing tenants. We're reviewing everything. So if we feel that a tenant's going to be difficult after the budget or after the new laws being introduced, we're acting on it now. So in May time, last year, at the beginning of the year, well, over the last 2 years, let me just get my facts correct. We have a tenant in Stoke-on-Trent who was paying $550, and he delayed a little bit of money, then didn't pay the next month. Then it got to a stage where he wasn't paying. So we then started, our court proceedings and started writing letters to him, etc., etc. The court case was meant to be heard in May, and then it got delayed. He paid on and off, and it got delayed and delayed and delayed. And it was only yesterday that I actually got to the court, and I was only in the court 5 minutes, and I got a 14-day possession order. The arrears have now mounted up in 10 months to over £5,000. And we got £610 back for the fees that we have paid out to the court, etc. And the tenant had gone through vetting, had done various things, and was absolutely okay. And we also had rent protection. So the first 3 or 4 years, there were no problem. And then we didn't renew rent protection because we thought, he's a great tenant. But that just goes to show that life can change for him. and he decided not to continue to pay, and now he'll be evicted. We have given him options after options to go do payment plans. So whilst we're waiting for the court, we were still trying to get a payment plan, get money coming in, etc. But I, as a landlord, I'm sure you as a landlady or landlords don't want to evict people, but the law is there, and if they don't want to play the ball, then we have to take that action. So yeah, those. But
So Sanu, are you actively getting your money back off this land, off the tenant that's actually not paid? Because I've had a couple of scenarios where I've gone to court and there's no way you're going to get the funds off of them. They just disappear into the ether. They don't even turn up at court, to be fair.
Well, that's an absolutely valid point. He didn't turn up yesterday. So I travelled from Sittingbourne the night before, so I paid for a serviced accommodation, stayed over, did some stuff up there, attended court, and the tenant didn't turn up. The judge basically went through the paperwork and said, yeah, paperwork's great, asked me a few questions just for the record. He gave us a possession order. Possession order plus rent arrears, as you're saying, Paul, doesn't mean that I'm going to get my money. And previously, when this has happened, I feel so happy that I get my property back and then I can get back into business. I've lost money, and this is the highest amount I've ever lost in one go. Yes, I will be doing a CCJ on him, and we have a debt collection company. Debt collection company will take some percentage, and just to give you an example, 2018 we were doing company lets, and I let 30 properties to one company, and so they had a mixture of contractors, over 100, 140 contractors at any stage. They decided, they paid me all the way, and I made really good money. I was really happy. And then at the end, they walked away owing me 60 grand. We employed a debt collection company, and this company that they'd registered a company in Belgium, and the debt collection company went to Belgium, and I got all my money back. Yeah, and then the deposit which was still in our account, because we paid the fees to the debt collection company. So we will use that debt collection company again to get this debt back, because it's a big sum of money. And the 14-day order, I didn't even have to ask the judge for a 14-day order. He said, although it was all written down, because I go with a draft statement which says this is the draft order, and it says their draft order after my statement, and I go, number 1, 14-day possession order, number 2, arrears of this one. If they don't move out after the 14 days, then there's a daily charge of £17.55. Can you release the deposit? And the last one was pay the court fees. So there are 5 things on there. And he just said 14 days. He didn't even say, have they got children? Is he working? Not any of that. Because in that situation, they can say 28 days. If they take offence, they can say 56 days, which means that would have been taking them right up to Christmas, when you can't evict anybody because the court's shut down for 2 weeks and you cannot get a bailiff to attend to actually evict somebody. It's a long answer to your question there, Paul. Will I get my money? I'm going to get my money. I haven't in the past, all of them. That's unfortunate, but yeah, from a tax perspective as well, I can be taxed on the 5 grand income that I haven't had because it was invoiced. They're not invoiced technically by the tenancy agreement in requesting that money. So I could have to pay 25% corporation tax on that money. So even at 20%, that's maths is easy for me. It's a grand tax that I haven't actually received. So
The thing, the couple I've had has not been so big, but I've had a sort of £1,500 and £1,800 basically from an HMO where I took them just to court and just got by that time, funny enough, as I've gone to court, they've actually left. They just upped and left. Don't know where they went, they just upped and left. So end of. But they have got CCJs against them. So, but I didn't take it any further because, like you said, right, they're out of the room, take the hit and then get on with it.
Yeah, I think if it's that level, I'd probably ride it and go. It's a couple of months. I just want to get back into business, but I think in this situation, Yeah, and I think we've learned a little bit more of the law as well. That CCJs is just an application form and it's quite easy. But as you say, if you don't know where they are, that's the difficulty.
The trouble is that more and more people like this are learning the game, and they you know, there are people out there. They talk to each other. They know. It's like in the old days when you used to get the squatters. They always knew what to do, how to avoid the, you know, any legal shenanigans. They talk to each other and they play the game. It's like this guy that I told you about last week. He's absolutely playing the game. And my client's an elderly, you know, in his 80s, and he's putting him in the hospital. It's dreadful.
Yeah. So, you know, us landlords are investors. We're here learning. We're on social media, and who do we follow? We follow the other investors, the landlords. We're on Clubhouse and various things. I think the tenants have got just as smart as the landlords.
Yeah.
Because there's people out there going, well, did you know your landlord should be doing this for you? And if your landlord hasn't registered your deposit, then you could be in trouble, and you know, you could claim 3 times the deposit, etc., etc. So I think that the growth of social media, the tenants are a lot more educated than they were previously. Yes, we have landlord meetings. Yes, we have networking meetings, etc., etc. I don't think the tenants have networking meetings, but certainly the social media is there, and it's they can they've got that information. So that's where it's growing, and a lot of these people are seeing us as opportunities to go, well, they've got money. If they get it wrong, then we're gonna move forward and we're gonna claim off them. Would you agree? Would you disagree?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think you're absolutely right. It's you know, it's the compensation culture, isn't it, Sunil? That it's just grown and grown in this country in the last 10 years. Everybody's looking out for their compo opportunities.
Yeah. Paul, would you agree? Disagree?
Yeah, no, I think the tenants they definitely know their rights, definitely, without a doubt. And they can cost you a lot of money by just hanging in there, really, until you get the bailiffs there.
Yeah.
And the chance of getting your money back is often not very good. I mean, the other thing is, I don't know, I haven't been around for a little while, but I don't know if you had a chat, you've talked about the Renters Reform Bill. I don't know if anyone's has read that at the moment and can summarise it. So I've had a quick look at it, but not delved into it. But, you know, that's growing a can of worms as well, isn't it?
Can do. I don't have slides this evening, but what they're saying, I can do a very quick summary. If everybody is okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So at the moment, like on this situation yesterday, the guy hadn't paid his rent for 2 months. So when it got to the 2 months, we served the Section 8 notice. We will listen to everybody's story. We will say, look, we'll set up a payment plan for you. We will do these items for you. We will try and build a relationship with them to see if we can get our money in. Because like Paul quite rightly said, once you get to court, you get a bit of paper, but you don't necessarily get your money, which is not what we're in business for. So it's better to try and negotiate with them and get some payment plan going, get some money, get a guarantor, see if they can get a loan, etc., etc. So that money, so 2 months' notice on a Section 8 notice. If they don't pay their rent for 2 months, you can serve a 14-day notice. What the government are proposing is these poor tenants, we need to give them more time. So you can't go to the court system until they're free. You can't serve notice until they're 3 months in arrears. Okay, so now 3 months in arrears, even before you can serve a notice. Then they're talking about a cooling off period, etc. And then you try and get that application into court. Well, it's just going to be delayed. So yeah, it's taken me time on this particular one to get to court. And the sad thing at court yesterday was there was not a lot of people in the waiting room. Like there wasn't hundreds of landlords waiting to get. There was me and one other, and there was another case. So you think, well, why haven't they got the judges, or why can't this judge do more in a day? So I don't know what his diary was like in the morning or the afternoon, but the midday when I went, there was hardly anybody there. But there we are. So Renters Reform Act, they are trying to abolish Section 21, so you can't actually serve a Section 21. So the tenant is allowed to stay in the property until the tenant does something wrong. Okay, They are talking about caveats that if you want to sell the property, that you'll be allowed to do that. For me, I'm not really worried because I think we can continue with the tenancy. So I'm not looking to serve tenancy notices on tenants. I'm not looking to get rid of tenants. I'm actually looking to keep the tenants because the longer they stay, the better it is. You get less repairs and etc. etc. So that was some of the bits. And I think, did you put in the chat, Dan, that we had a good presentation from Suzanne on at the meeting? So we can send some slides out to you or to anybody here that we've got from last in-person meeting, but also I've got slides that we've got ourselves. Because without the slides, it may be difficult for you to understand, or
Yeah, I think I started reading it, but if you've got something that summarises it, it'll be a lot better. But I will have to read it myself so I understand, because there's a couple of bits I read there whereby if they're constantly in arrears.
Yes, I found it now. So
but constantly in arrears by a little bit, there's other things you can do. I need to read it.
She does have she does have a website and a podcast too, which is full of information which may help.
Yeah, that's great, brilliant. So periodic tenancies will come in, and they want to end fixed term tenancies. So we actually like fixed term tenancies, and I'm surprised that because the Labour government was talking about increasing the tenancy periods. A lot of agents and landlords do 6 months tenancies. Do you guys do 6 months?
Fixed, I do 12, and then it runs into periodic.
Yeah, so I do 12. We always start with a 12-month because the time goes by so quick. It gives the tenant more certainty. It helps them to stay longer. And we actually thought that the previous government and even the Labour government was talking about giving tenancies longer periods. So 1 year, or no, sorry, 2 or 3 year tenancy agreements, which made sense because the longer they're staying, the more security they've got. But what they're talking about is periodic tenancies. So the tenant has the power to give you notice at any stage, which doesn't give them, well, I suppose it gives them security, but as landlords, not. I would have preferred a longer tenancy agreement. Rent increases. Rents can only be increased once a year. We only do that, and only by Section 13 notice. Again, we do that, and the rent must reflect the market rent. Our market rent, or just below, which again, so there's no change there. And if you have to go to a tribunal, it'll only take effect from the day of the tribunal, which again makes sense that you can't backdate rents. Grounds for possession, abolishment of Section 21, and landlords are still seeking possession for reasons such as non-payment of rent, antisocial behaviour, etc. So you can still get them out. How long is it going to take? How is the court process going to be? They're the questions. Private resident sector, as an estate agent, we have to be a part of an ombudsman service. We have to pay £500 a year to say if a tenant or a landlord has any issues, they can go there. It's a redress scheme. Basically, every landlord will be part of that scheme. So it will be called the private renter sector landlord ombudsman. So you and I will have to pay per property or as a landlord to join that, and that would mean that if they need somebody to mediate, that service is there. Not sure if you think that's a good or bad idea. Private sector renter database. They've talked about a database. If you don't join, they're already talking about a penalty of £7,000. I'm not sure if this is join as a landlord or join as a landlord per property. So if it's landlord per property and I miss one of my properties, it could be quite expensive. So this already happens in Wales, where Rent Smart Wales has been operating for about 8 years. And they have a database of every landlord in Wales and even outside of Wales. I'm outside of Wales, but the property is in Wales. That we have to upload the EPC, the gas cert, the electrical cert. They know where I live. and they know where the tenant is. So the way they police it is, if I try to serve a Section 21 in Wales, then they look on the database, all the details are there, yeah, you can go forward. If a tenant complains to local authority, they can go on the database, yeah, this is one of John Parker's properties, yeah, it's all good here, all his data's in there. But if they need to contact John, they can just pick up the phone because they've got his phone number and email address. I actually think for the 8 years that I've had it, only one property there, it's a good system because it's all on a. It's the other side is that you have to they do landlord training on the website. You log in, you do landlord training, and then you get a certificate to say you passed it. Again, it shows professionalism in the industry. But every landlord that's got a property in Wales is already registered. If you're not registered, there are penalties that occur. So if they've got a HMO, something's happened, etc., then they know who to contact and they know what to do. There's there's about renting with pets. This is quite a big idea as well, that you cannot discriminate against pets. Banned on rental bidding. I don't know if you do any of this stuff, but in London it's quite thing that they put a property on. Let's say it's £1,500 in London. Next person may come along and say, well, I'll pay you £1,600. Somebody comes along and pay you £1,700. So that's going to be outlawed. So there's no bidding. It's a fixed price. That's the price of the property. And of course, they've looked at discrimination. You cannot discriminate against people on housing benefit and things like that. So there's about 8 or 9 things, bullet points, that they're looking at, but it won't come in because it'll go through Parliament before probably close July time, and then it'll be after next. So it'll be this time next year that some of the bits may get introduced.
Cheers for that, son. Oh, yeah, thanks for
No,
the
sorry about
advice. Yeah, great.
quite
I'll
long.
read
Quite
it
a long.
in depth. I'll have to read it in depth.
Yeah, I've got some little slides there, quite a long explanation. But as I say, if I had slides in front of me with that, I could do that probably again next month. And it just covers, until it's certain, we don't know. But we know one thing. If we have tenants that are not so good, it's time to review them now with a stronger head on rather than your heart, because we know the law is going to get more difficult. We don't have that many, to be honest with you. We manage around 600 properties, but we don't have that many. We have a few bad tenants and the ones, so we're looking at those and seeing. But if a landlord calls us and says, oh, I'm really worried about my tenant and I don't think they're going to be good for me long term, then we advise to say, well, look, if you want to do something, do the notices now. You don't have to go through the notices, but do it before the new law comes in. So yeah, look at your portfolios. That's the point. Any comments from anybody before I continue?
Do you see a lot of people going to be switching on to the, just leasing out on a social housing, to get around these sort of new laws, just thinking, there may not necessarily be much difference in price, so we do it like this instead, it's a lot less hassle. What sort of strategies do you see at the moment with this new government and the new laws coming in, which are going to work in somebody's favour rather than against it?
Yeah, Daniel, I think that's a really good idea. I think people are looking at serviced accommodation. They're looking at other avenues. We've always had a policy, like you said. We rent to Serco, and Serco have a contract with the government to house asylum seekers. So we have about 10 properties in Stoke-on-Trent. We have more than that, but 10 of those are with Serco. And it just made sense for me, because I'm in Kent, that they'll just give them to them. They were paying the market rent. They looked after the property. I don't have any void periods, no tenants situation. I don't have any contact with the tenants in any respect. And we've had that for 10 years. And in 10 years, some of the properties have never been vacant. I've never needed to advertise. I've never needed to go to the property, apart from they do some repairs. We do the landlord repairs. So they even do the gas certs. They even do the electrical certs and etc. But we have to do like roof repairs, boilers, etc. Like make boiler replacements rather than just repairs. So yeah, it is a good strategy. So if you've got a portfolio, it's well worth looking at, even if it's a few with with a company like that, because even during things like COVID, we knew that money was going to come in every month.
Do you think as your ones become vacant, that's something you would move towards more due to the current circumstances and the laws changing?
No, because not really, because in respect of, I can get sharper on the vetting side, and the rent protection. Now, rent protection, as we said on last Wednesday, we think rent protection is going to go up, but that the cost of rent protection will go up for definite. But then the rents are going to increase as well. The rents will continue to increase because the market will continue to change. But let me show you the presentation that we've got some slides here of what landlords worry about. So if Dan pops them up, then I can show you those. I think it'll answer your question in terms of what we are doing. But until the law comes out, as Paul said, it's reading the detail and seeing how we can overcome those situations. So if it's a notice situation, and I can't serve notice for 3 months, and I just have to work harder to make sure that before the notice, that we are trying to negotiate with the tenant a lot more. You know, we do refer them to the council, but to try and help them a lot more than we've ever done. So we don't tend to make home visits because we're not needed to, but we would then start doing something like that. Dan, are you okay with the slides?
Yep, just get them up now.
Okay. Dan has also put the tickets in or the link to the tickets for November. So am I left clicking or right clicking?
Left click. There we go.
Thank you. Great job. So frequently asked questions from landlords that we get. So let me just pop these all up and then I can start there. So these are some of the questions I guess get asked. What if the tenant's damaged my property? What if the interest rate goes up? What if the tenant damages my property again there? I don't know why. What if the interest rates go up? How do I vet tenants? And will I get my rent, basically? There's 3 questions there. What happens if tenant damages? What if the interest rate goes up? How do you vet tenants? And how do I protect my rent? These are the normal questions that landlords ask. Would you agree that they're the questions that you probably had yourselves when you first started, or even now?
Yeah, I think definitely the interest rates, although, you know, I think some of the interest rates are okay. It's not so much the interest rates, it's the actual admin fee. Yeah, it's a killer. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Some of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw it in one of the WhatsApp groups that I belong to, and I'm sure a lot of you do as well. I think the interest rate was 3%, but the actual fee was 40,000. And of course, we can add that to the loan, so you don't have to part with that money. But you've just taken 40 grand of equity out of your home to get that loan, and they're going to charge you interest on that. So yeah.
I mean, I don't know if Amit could sort of, whether he thinks it might change again, so the interest rates come down a little bit. It's not the interest rates, but the fees come down a little bit. Because yeah, I've just had to do 2. One was quite hefty, not that high, but the rate was about 3.6, I think, 369.
It's a good fee. I'm sorry, it's a good rate, but yeah, it depends on the fee and size of the loan. I mean, did you want to come in?
Sorry, Paul, I was just on the phone to Linda. Sorry, what was the question again?
I just said I don't know. Yeah, I know the interest rates. They're not too bad if you get the right deal, but some of the fees are pretty hefty. Is it something that you think the fees will start to come down at some stage, like they can get back to where they were with, where it's £995 or 0 fees for mortgages, and still stick around the 3.5 mark?
Yeah, I think what will happen is we just need a bit of stabilisation, a bit of normality to come back into the market, especially with the swap rate. So I think from a lender's perspective, as long as the swap rates continue on a downward trajectory, hopefully in probably 6 to 9 months, we can probably see those more expensive fees come back down to some sort of normality, and probably hopefully the max lender's fee would be 3 to 5%. What the lenders are effectively doing by loading a huge hefty product fee up front is they're effectively taking the interest up front. I guess the key thing to remember is sometimes if you're not getting a very good yield, if the rental income is not that great on the property, what you're looking to either purchase or remortgage, sometimes by paying the higher arrangement fee, you're going to get a much stronger borrowing amount day one, as opposed to going for a product with a lower arrangement fee. So for some landlords it works out. For some landlords, obviously the numbers don't stack up. So I guess you really just need to have a look at your sort of individual circumstances and see what deal works for you.
Cheers, Emmett.
I think the question is, well, when will interest rates drop?
That's the $1 million question.
Okay.
I think at the next MPC meeting.
Yeah, when's that? He's asking for your view. When do you think, in your opinion? I don't want to put you on the spot. He's just asking for a view.
I think next month. I think
Okay,
when they
next
next meet. Yeah. When they next have their MPC meeting, I think
Okay.
0.25% rate reduction is
Right.
my hunch.
Well, an influence on that, the markets have just announced tonight that the rate of inflation has dropped, is lower than what they expected it to be. So no doubt Mr. Starmer will be claiming the credit for that. And who knows what will happen next on the 30th.
1.7, isn't it, or something?
Well,
Amit said it was going to drop, so we're recording this, Amit, and we will go back to it and make sure that's correct. Excellent.
no pressure, Amit.
No. It's nice for Paul to get you in the conversation and get your view, because you're the expert in the field, so that's good.
Yeah. Sorry. I was just talking to one of our specialist lenders, a lender called Quantum Mortgages. They specialize in any tenancy agreement. So if you've got a quirky tenancy agreement, for example, guaranteed rent, Serco, MERS, any of the tenancy agreements which don't usually sit with a traditional mortgage lender, then Quantum Mortgages is probably going to be the right home for you.
Right.
He was just talking about one of his landlords. So one of his landlords phoned him up today, and Sunil was earlier on talking about rent arrears. One of his portfolio landlords is as two tenants owing him over £100,000.
How much?
Between two tenants over £100,000.
Wow.
And these are for properties in prime central London.
Yeah.
So you can just imagine the probably rental income for each property is probably about £5,000 or £6,000 per month.
Yeah, it can soon add up. Yeah, that's a big number, but I'm sure it's a big number.
They'll be using a debt collection service for that one.
Yeah, definitely. So before we get to the debt collection, this like brings me onto the slide about how do we vet the tenants. We vet every tenant that comes through our door. So we use external credit companies. We do credit searches. We do affordability criteria first. So we are asking them how, this is the property. It's a multiplier of 30. That's what the credit referencing want. So if you're earning this, okay, then we carry on the conversation. If they're not earning that, and we say, do you meet that affordability? Yes, they do. They'll tell you they do, and then sometimes they don't. But anyway, we'll carry on to the next step, and we'll use credit references. Previous landlord, and it could be the previous landlord, not the current landlord, but the previous landlord. It could be the current landlord as well, to make sure. But if the current landlord wants them out, they'll give you a good reference. I'm not saying people in this room would do that. I'm not saying that every landlord is like that, but some landlords can be like that. So it's trying to get as many references from a landlord perspective as you can. Employer checks on employer to make sure that they're working. We get, again, people in the agency coming in going, I'm working. Okay, how much do you earn? And how long's your contract been? And then what happens is they're going, yeah, I'm going to be starting work next week. but I've actually got to look for a job before that happens. So yeah, a little bit of you got to do the checks. Daniel?
Yeah, just a quick question, really. Whenever I've let out any of my stuff, I've always used tenant find service from an agent to find it and then manage it myself. I've always been curious. One of your points here saying previous landlord and checks, for instance. How do you actually vet that? That's actual, that it is an actual landlord. That it's not that a mate's number that they put down and said if somebody such and such calls, just pretend.
Yeah, it is difficult, but we will get landlord's emails address. We get the landlord and see if they're advertising other properties. They'll confirm addresses. It's difficult. If somebody wants to get around the system, they will definitely try. But we use an external company, so the onus for us is that we've employed them, and they have to do these checks. We used to do it all in house. And they do all the checks. So if they do all the checks, then they will offer us rent protection and legal cover. So the liability is on them to make sure that information is from a good source. Yeah, the only one, like the employer reference, if it's the NHS service, it's very slow, so the tenants then slow down. But yeah, I would say that we haven't had that situation as far as we're aware. We get very little rent arrears because not doing any of this stuff will mean that it does. You will get rent arrears. We also look at social media to find out how they're living in their property. Also, there was one landlord who's saying, if you're coming to see my property and you want to live in my property, is it okay if I come and visit your property where you're currently living? So then I can see how you're living. So if that tenant, let's say they've got 10 applications, they're going to go with one. This landlord is saying, well, let me come and see where you're living. It works if you're local, and I don't know if you think that's right or wrong, but if you're local like we are, we've got a lot of properties locally, but if that tenant's moving from Manchester down to Kent, maybe I'm not going to go to Manchester to have a look at that property. And like Daniel just said, I could say, well, let me FaceTime you and you can show me around your house, and they could go to their friend's house, which looks absolutely mint. So, so yeah, vetting systems in place. We always vet the tenants, and if it takes a little bit longer, it takes a little bit longer. As I say, Facebook, social media, and we have a system that works. The key thing is that if you get a bad feeling for a tenant, they can pass the referencing, they can pass the credit checks, they could look on good on Facebook, but if you get a bad feeling, don't let to them. Because every time I've had a bad feeling with somebody and I've let to them, I've lost money. So I don't know if any of you have had the same experience. It's just me. But yeah, if you get a bad feeling, they're going to be in your property a while, so don't do that. What's a tenant?
Not with tenants, Sunil, but I've had it with clients.
Yeah.
Clients that I've taken on, and I've had the gut thinks, and sure enough, bad debt. I haven't done it very often, fortunately, but it's gutting when it does happen.
Yeah, and then when I sort of, I mean, you do a great service for us, and you're always there when I need you, and I'm like pick up the phone or email you. Within a few days, you come out, get your report, we pay your invoice, and it's a nice little system. I'm very conscious when I say to somebody, oh, John's great, because John is great, but I don't know how they're going to be with you, and that always worries me. So yeah, it's one of those
well
things.
Well, that's nice of you to say that, Sunil, but that's down to me to do my vetting, isn't it, really? And
yeah. Yeah, because
I don't often get it wrong, but
No.
I have done it a couple of times.
Yeah. So yeah, if it happens, then I'm like gutted as well. So if they even pay late, so I just say to people when I do recommend, say, you've got to follow our system, you've got to pay them, you've got to do this. So what if the tenant damages my property? This is a very, very rare occurrence that tenants actually damage the property. What they're intending to do is to leave something like rubbish at the property or things that they don't want. But damage is very rare. And the thing to do with is that we do property inspections. It's like 3 months, 6 months, and a year. Now, we can't get round to all the properties. So what we do initially is that we do a 3-month inspection. If that property is okay, we'll do a 6 months. And after that, we may go to a year. And we will then try and move that so that it's not so frequent. We also have really good relationship with our gas engineers. They want our business as well. And we're saying to them, But when you go out, if you see something that's not quite right, do let us know. And everybody likes a bit of a gossip, don't they? Say, oh, you know, you should have seen all the beer bottles outside that property, and you're thinking, oh yeah, they're drinking my rent money. So inspections are so important. Also builds up relationship with the tenants. You get to know them. They're much more amicable. If anything goes wrong, if they can't pay rent, they'll also come and talk to you. So inspections, building that relationship is absolutely key. So damage is not one that we worry about. And also we take a 5-week deposit. Why do we take a 5-week deposit? Yeah, that's correct. It's the law. Yeah. So I had another letting agent in Sittingbourne contact me about 3 or 4 weeks ago, said, I've never had to evict a tenant, or they, you know, never had a rent arrears. Can you just help me? So I said, yeah, no problem. Send me your paperwork. I had a look through. I said, you've actually got a 6 weeks deposit here. Oh, did the law change? Yeah, it did. And every landlord that he's working for on his own properties, every one of those is a problem because the deposit isn't right. So he's registered a 6 weeks deposit. The law says that you can only hold a 5-week deposit, and that's been in for 5 years. So yeah, I don't know how he's managed to not do it and not.
That's the maximum salary. Yeah, I mean, generally I hold a 4-week deposit, but
Yeah,
it's 5. Yeah,
maximum is 5 weeks, and even if you go, oh, you know what, it's 595, and I'm going to round it up to 600, it's still over the 5 weeks. But you can take less or you can take none. So that's a really good point, Paul. Yeah. So, but this landlord must have, I think, about 50 properties that he manages his own, plus including others that he manages for other landlords. But all his deposits are wrong. But, yeah. Will I get my rent? Often a question. And as I said, if we can do the vetting correctly, rent protection and legal cover. The key thing here is that I do hear landlords saying that I'm with Direct Line, or I'm with Churchill's, or I'm with this company, and I get my rent. It's a little bit different, and they call it rent protection or rent guarantees and things like that. But it's only if the property becomes inhabitable due to a fire or flood that they then pay the rent. So all these policies are different. So if you're relying on your home policy, do check the wording that it relates to if the tenant doesn't pay for any reason, not that the property has been damaged in any way, if that makes sense. So it's not the fact that the tenant, it's the fact that the tenant can't pay, either lost their job or choosing not to pay. That's where you need proper rent protection. And this is rent guarantee, but it actually means rent protection. And legal cover you can have without having rent protection. So it's well worth having the legal cover as well as rent protection. But if you can't do both, then always get the legal cover, because it's so cheap, probably about £30–40 for the year. And like I just said, it cost me £610 just for the court fees yesterday. But in that situation, you'll get a solicitor doing we did all our own paperwork. We attended court ourselves. Even the judge says, where's your representative? I said, no, we're representing ourselves. But if I'd had the rent protection, then I would have just got a solicitor to do it, and they would have done everything. So, yeah. So this was meant to say, if you get rent protection or rent guarantee, it's rent protection and legal cover, you're safe as houses. Do you like that? Safe as houses. Okay. So what happens if the interest rate goes up? If you listen to Gundan, who came to do a presentation for us at the beginning of this year or last year, he showed it in public, so there's nothing I'm telling you. He had about 30 or 40 mortgages on his spreadsheet that he put on the screen, so it's all public knowledge. Every single one of them were fixed because he wanted certainty. And when I first started, interest rates went from 7% to 14% within a matter of months. And then I realized that, okay, I managed to deal with it. It's only 2 or 3 properties, but then I started fixing. So a lot of my properties are fixed, and some, as they come off, I'm trying to get new deals. But it goes back to Paul's point, is that if I go and fix it, the amount of fees I'm paying, the amount of this, I'm in a bit of a trap that some have to be variable. But in the majority of cases, I have had fixed mortgages because it gives me certainty that the interest rate goes up, I'm still protected. If the interest rate goes up and the calculation, you go above, then you've got to start paying towards that, and the calculations may not work. So any comments on that, or any questions or anything? Do you fix your mortgages? You think it's a good idea?
Yeah, I think fixing them's good. Depends on your scenario, whether it's a 2 or 5 year, what you want to do with that. I've got a couple that I'm thinking maybe selling on and reinvesting elsewhere, so I'll probably fix it on a 2, and the ones that are better yielding, I tend to fix on a 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely fix personally.
Yeah, I agree. And I've always done long-term fixes. So when Mortgage Express 2008 were doing 10-year fixes, I took out 10-year fixes. The following months, they dropped massively, but I knew I was still protected. My business model was still protected to go forward. And I like that security that, yeah, regardless of what is in the market, I was fixed, and I've done 5-year fixes as well. If I could do longer, I'll definitely do that. Interest rates will go up, as we've seen in the past. They'll go up and down, but the key is, as Dave and I's interest rates will increase, and we have seen that. And I think this slide was written in when the interest rates were 0.5% and 1%, so we knew that they were going to go. So that was my prediction. I meant that the interest rates, when they were 0.5%, that they would have gone up, and that was correct. So, so that's when this slide goes back to. So yeah, always consider fixing. Always consider getting rent protection, legal cover, and vetting.
Sorry, is there? I don't know. I'm not seeing it. Is there still 10-year mortgages out there fixed? Not seen personally.
I mean, is there 10-year fixed mortgages out there?
Sorry, say that again. Sorry, screen froze.
I said, is there still 10-year fixed mortgages out there or not?
I think there is one lender that does a 10-year fix, but predominantly on the buy-to-let side, 7-year fixes is the norm.
Yeah, I think that's good, because on my home where we live, our residential property, I've got a 7-year fix, which has been great because it's 1.17 or something like that. So it's been brilliant. So yeah, 7-year fixes. If you can, the longer you can get, the better. But just look at the rates and look at the overall cost of finance on the period of time that you're trying to get the finance for.
Yeah, we were quite fortunate that before the rates imploded, I managed to secure a 10-year fix at 1.92 with Leeds Building Society.
That's brilliant. So what if the prices go down? Depends where you are, but let's say if the prices go down, it's probably not. Well, they haven't gone down, as this says. Property prices on the long run have always increased. However, if they go down, it's the wrong time to sell. So I don't tend to sell anyway, but yeah, if I needed to, it'll be the wrong time to sell. So it's looking at your portfolio. If it was brought correctly, and it's certainly some time ago, if you shouldn't be worried about prices going down, because if the prices are going down, there may be opportunities for you to actually get more properties. Any comments on that? That's my view. That's quite controversial, because people go, well, what if I have to sell? Yeah, what if the property prices go down? Certainly, they've not gone down for a long time. And even in the biggest drops in London, they were talking about the papers, but 2% drop, and then it came back, and it wasn't across the board. It was certain houses rather than across the board. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm saying mine. I don't tend to sell anything, but I just had one remortgage, which I thought was going to be a bit close to the mark. That I thought, well, I served the tenant a Section 21, just in case I could not get that mortgage squared away and across the line, and that's the one that cost me quite a few grand in sort of fees. But I've secured it for 5 years now, and it's at 3.69 or something like that. So it still works.
Yeah, brilliant.
But at one point, what was coming back, I was kind of worried that I'm not going to get a mortgage on it. So I started Section 21 just in case. It
Yeah.
worried the tenant, but I kind of explained and spoke to her direct and said, this is the reason, this is why I don't intend to sell it, provided I get a mortgage.
Yeah.
And she was a bit worried, but she understood.
Hmm. Yeah. No, that's good. If you are serving a Section 21, as Paul is saying, there's 4 bits of paper that you need to serve beforehand. So you would have served it when a tenancy was issued. And Daniel made the very good point that I'll pick up on as well, that even if you don't want to use a letting agent, then the law is so complicated now, is just get them to do a tenant find service and then start managing yourself if that's what you want to do, because you may want to control, you might want to look after your own properties, which is absolutely great, but the paperwork is a lot more complicated than it used to be. So what we do is that when we're going to serve a Section 21 notice, we want the property back, we would have served all the paperwork at the beginning, but we need to make sure that when we get to the court, the tenant cannot turn around and say, oh, I wasn't issued the following pieces of paper: gas cert, electrical cert, EPC, and a how to rent guide. And it must be the latest how to rent guide. So a week before the notice, we send these 4 bits of paper to the tenant electronically. We get them to accept them. It's been done. If ever we missed it, let's say that some of our tenants have been in there for 10 years, but let's say we missed it 5 years ago, we were meant to serve the how to rent guide, and the lady did the 3 things, lady or gentleman. Let's say they did the gas cert, the electrical cert, the EPC. Then the phone rang, and they forgot to send the last bit of paper, and they went on holiday. It got forgotten about. That's the key. That those 4 bits of paper get served again, and then a week later, you serve the Section 21. So yesterday when I went to the court, I said to the judge, it was on a Section 8 notice, please can you release the deposit? Because then I don't have to faff around with the deposit company trying to get my deposit back. The tenant won't respond. I wouldn't get my deposit back as well. And he said, have you registered the deposit? Yes. Who have you registered the deposit with? And I was able to provide the paperwork to him. And it was a deposit certificate that the tenant had signed and prescribed information. And the prescribed information is just information about how that deposit is held. So I hope those tips help, because if you do that bit right, the judge has to give you possession. Currently, it may change. Currently, that's the law, and that's the thing to do. Any final questions before we sort of wrap up? Because I think it's been loads of information, and thank you, Daniel, for your question, John for joining and commenting, etc., and Paul and Amit and Dan.
Yeah, I have got one final comment. You mentioned about EPC, Sunil.
Yeah.
With the work I'm doing with a housing association in the North Paddington retrofit area, the general consensus and feeling is that the EPC system is going to be revised and revised to be more onerous. So it's just be prepared that I don't know when it's going to happen. Who knows with governments, but the general feeling is that it is going to be much more onerous in the not too distant future.
Yeah, no, it's good that you give us that information. It's not good information, but well, the information is good, but what it contains isn't good. Like you're dealing with other companies that maybe we don't come across, etc. There's lots of Ed Miliband. He's still on the WhatsApp groups again. This is what's going to happen. I think it's just a waiting game. We'll just have to see. And in the meantime, although I'm like Paul was saying about reading it, and I'm reading it, and I'm interested, and I'm following it. It doesn't take up too much of my time because I'm really focused on creating wealth and making money, because I think that we do lose the focus otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just that in my role, I have to tell people these things. Yeah.
No, I mean, even at the meeting last week and the number of times you come along, that all that information about CDMs and about dampness and about this, I don't have to research it because John's telling us how, as it happens, which is, makes you aware of what's happening. So yeah, brilliant.
I was with clients today on a big property in Camberwell, and it's got lots of issues, and I did feel like I was a boxer and I had them on the ropes because they were punch stroke by the time I'd finished, but it's what I have to do, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
I think it's a conversation another time, but I think the EPC, they're on about now giving landlords or offering our landlords up a sum to try and get it up to speed on the grading as well. From I think I've
Well,
seen
that
15,000
that Paul,
pounds.
that's all to do with what they call the retrofit moves. There is funding available from local authorities, and it's worthwhile researching it because there is funding available to upgrade properties. You know, if they're suitable for upgrading. Yeah.
So you just reach out to them directly, the local authority, and they tell you
But
what's
yeah,
available.
ask them the question. You know, is there any retrofit funding available for my property because I want to upgrade this, that, and the other? Just ask them the question. It's certainly worth researching.
Yeah.
Got a great question for you, Sunil. I noticed in the corner. Is that a new development I see to your right, in black and white? That one
This
there.
one?
Yeah.
No, it's not a new development. It's the Kemsley Arms where we got. I think when you came, it
Yeah.
was we were, and I think John came that day as well. He did, and it was snowed. We were still trying to get planning. We have got planning, and we're now talking to Sainsbury's to get the shop done. We're talking to a charity and a developer that want to take it on. So we are trying to sell it. If you know anybody, and I think Louisa sent you the details.
Yeah.
But again, you know, it goes out to anybody. We've got 4 or 5 developments that we want to sell. So if anybody is here, knows anybody, happy to send them to you. We will pay a commission, because we're going to pay commission anyway to somebody. So it might as well be one of you guys. John's been to all of these. So
if I'm interested in buying it, can I get the commission as well?
sorry, mate.
So if I bought it, can I have the commission as well?
You certainly can. Yeah, we'll just add it on top. Don't worry. And then we'll put it on the fees and all the rest of it. No, yeah, no, definitely, because it's one of those things that we need to do. John's been out to these properties. He valued the Kemsley Arms and the Wheatsheaf, Newington, and I think he went out one day and he valued them all. And we are using them reports, although they're 2 years old. We have sent them out, John, where people said, you know, have you got any valuations? Yes, we have. They were done for KCC. John Parker's the gentleman, and again, you know, it gives them something to work with. And we're saying, look, that's valuation. Then things have got a lot better. Yeah.
But I think what's really impressive out of all of the properties that we saw was definitely for sure the college. That was a very nice looking building.
Yeah, well, Daniel, thank you. And we're working on that at the moment because we have to sign off the planning conditions, the pre-planning conditions. So we have to, I've just, Louise has found somebody, the clock has to work. There's a big, massive clock, and it has to work. So we've had to appoint somebody to do a survey on the clock. We've had architects there this week. So there's a lot of work going on in order to sign off the planning conditions even before we can get started. But what happens is that they give you 3 years. And oh my God, the 3 years go by so quickly because you leave it for the first year, you know, okay, you know, I'm busy with this. Then you say to somebody, can you go and do the report on the clock? And they go, oh yeah, it's going to take me three months because I'm really busy. And he's the only guy that can do it. But somebody else needs his report to do his bit. And then when those 2 reports are in, the third person needs it. So yeah, the time goes by so quick. So we have to be careful on the timings.
I know a guy which does some historic stuff, and he's restored some stuff. So maybe I could put you in touch with him. Maybe you can help on that as well.
Yeah, send it to Louise because she's done that. But they want what sort of bricks are we going to use because it's a listed building, and there's 4 new houses being built next door. So yeah, what sort of bricks? What sort of this? There's so many questions on the pre-applications, even before we actually get started on the site.
I'm reminded that on that tour of the schools, Sunil, I'm reminded of that moment when we're standing in a doorway, a fire door, which is wedged open with a fire hydrant.
Yeah, no,
That
absolutely.
sounds quite amusing.
We got a caretaker guy now. He's part-time, and he goes out and he's there every day. You know, it's just checking stuff, and we're getting rented, so we have to do these things and make sure that you know it's legal. But yeah, wrong person to take to a building. Or yeah, Franklin, good evening. I can't see you, but you've got your hand up, so happy to take a question.
Yeah,
Good to
hello.
see you.
Hello, everyone. Sonia, because you talked about planning permission, I have a question to you, also open also to everyone else. Have you had like experience receiving a planning permission for some project approved by a council, but then when you go through building regulations, it seems that inspectors or fire engineers, they say it's not possible to implement this project. Have you experienced this? You receive like this permission from the council, but then inspectors they say difficult to or impossible actually.
Yeah,
to
who obtained the planning permission?
The landlord from the
So,
council.
yeah, but what I'm saying is, have you bought this project or you just know about it?
It's actually my brother-in-law. He works on that, and he applied for planning permission. He received that because he's change of use to convert commercial property into residential. A little bit more complicated, like HMO, but due to some fire wrecks, it seems that the approach to inspector, they say it's not possible to implement this.
Yeah. Okay. Yes,
It's
I
a
have
listed
experienced it.
building. It's a listed building.
Yeah.
That's
So, John,
Franklin, that's why it's so important to be thorough with your due diligence before you get involved in anything. You really do need to check. Unfortunately, local authorities are renowned for different departments not talking to each other. They're renowned for it, and you know, one set of rules are set up by one department that doesn't necessarily fall into line with another. So, yeah, it's so difficult.
so Franklin, are you still there? I'll try and know if you've moved around.
Yeah, I hear you.
Great. No,
Thank you.
it's a great question, and John just said the council don't talk to each other. You can actually, just as a sideline, you can get planning on anybody's property. You don't have to own it because planning has got nothing to do with the legal ownership. So on the project that Daniel was just asking about, we have planning on next door's land. So how did you do that? Well, we spoke to next door, who is they're a community centre, and we said, could we just take some of your land at the back, get planning, so that we can build another 8 houses here, 8 flats? And they said, yeah, of course you can, but we need the bit of land across the road there. I said, okay, we'll speak to the council, we'll get you that bit of land, and then we'll buy this bit of land for you. It's like a land swap. So because he was a local councillor who's on this chair committee, he said, look, let's get the planning through first, and then we're worried about the swap of land. They actually have nothing in writing. We've got our planning permission. So if I was not ethical, I could go, well, yeah, I've got my planning, thank you very much, see you later. But no, we're going to get the land for them. So you can get planning on land that you don't own. So that's the first point. Second point is we had a project in Faversham, which John will tell you about. He was there as well. And don't have any slides, but you can just see here some of the pictures. And there was a conversion of a Corals, which is the betting shop, upstairs offices, and we converted it into 4 flats, and then we built 3 new flats at the back. So there's 7 in total, and there was a basement that we just sold off because the basement was causing us problems, and we decided to get out. So it's 7 flats in total, and we just finished, and we tried to sell the first one, and the fire officer didn't sign them off. We went for our certificate just to get a final certificate, and they said, no, you need a sprinkler system in here because now, due to Granville, etc., building regs, etc., have changed. So we are not going to give you sign off, the building controller said, until you put a sprinkler system in. All the ceilings are in, all the pipework is in. We actually then negotiated with a fire officer to get a mist system, which was a little bit, it was cheaper, but it was easier to put in. And a dry liner so the fire brigade can come along and attach their big hose to a big pipe, and then they can get water anywhere in the building. So what you're saying to me there is building regulations and planning are totally 2 separate things. So you can get planning, but that doesn't mean to say it's going to be profitable, number one. Number two, if the building regs change, and they do regularly, that also means that there is a problem. So we found recently on one of the projects that we're doing, is that the building controller said that in order to sign off the pre-planning conditions, we must do 15% of works, which is a large portion, where before you could just put some drain pipes in, you could do something to show that you'd started works. But now it's very specific. So in your situation, it could be that, yeah, you may not be able to hit building regulations, but you need to get an expert on site to help you to find out what the actual issue is. Does your brother-in-law know what the actual issue is?
In general, what they mentioned, the issue was the mixed use of the property and also the only one staircase as a fire exit.
Yeah.
But it's listed building, so it's impossible to find another solution. Like
No, there is a solution. There is one exit. There is one exit. So depending on where is the property?
it's in Manchester.
Okay. So in Kent, they have a policy called stay put. So what they're asking the tenant to do, person in the occupation of the property, is do not leave the room that you're in. Do not leave the flat. The fire brigade will come and get you. That's their policy. It could be the same in Manchester, but your answer is to go and find somebody that will, to see if they, or your planning consultant, somebody needs to ask the question, can they put in a mist system? Can they put in a sprinkler system? Because it's all about protecting the tenant. So if they've got to exit that property and on one fire case, then they may need to put additional fire protection along that corridor. Currently it's 1 hour, but they may say we want 2 hour protection. They may say windows need to open. There's also AOVs, the windows that open in the event of a fire. The window will open automatically and let the smoke out, because the smoke is what kills. So there is an answer to it.
But
And
protection of the means of escape is absolutely key. It's called a means of escape, and that's what the main staircase is. And that protection is absolutely key. You have to get it right. And if you don't, you won't get your permissions.
So there is an answer to it.
And just our second question also, is the building inspector also responsible for soundproofing between
Yes.
floors?
Yes.
Okay, so what he will say about requirements will be the plan to follow.
Yeah, so he will be the person that signs off the
Mhm.
building control on the sound side, but you will have a sound expert that will provide a report to the
Yeah.
building controller to say he's come and tested.
Yeah, Franklin, don't be confused. The building control officer won't design it for you. He won't. You might be lucky. He might offer you a suggested detail, but he won't design it for you. He will expect you to get the detailed design and for him to approve. So, you've got to do your due diligence. You've got to get your design and your correct advice from experts who know what they're talking about, really know what they're talking about.
Yeah, that's why it's the work is with the architect, but at the end there is some confusion between the architect and the inspectors, because
Yeah, I can understand, but the architect will do his job. He's the expert in that job. Building controller is the expert here in his job. So in respect of sound, you need a sound expert. And normally, I mean, we're just putting an application in for one flat. We've got planning for 2 on the same thing, and we're going for the 3rd one. And we've produced a sound report at the beginning. So we've employed a guy, he's done a sound report, we've put that into the council as part of the application. So your building controller needs that report. Your building controller needs the answers to the fire escape. Yeah, you need to provide, like John's just said, you need to provide the answers to your building controller. Your building controller will give you, say, you've got these issues, he'll highlight them and in a report, but you really need that. Has he done the last inspection? Have you got a copy of the last inspection?
no, just right now it's mostly talks. We have like an architect in the team, and just there was a talk with the inspector, but it's not working together.
So when a building controller goes out to a property, they will do a building control inspection, and they'll highlight all the things that they need to sign off, or all the things that they've inspected and the things that they still need. If you get hold of that report, and I've just put my email address in the chat, send it over and I'll have a look. But also your architect. But the architects are not. He may be really good at architecture, but he learned architecture. He didn't learn about building control. He didn't learn about various things. We use our architect partly to project manage, but then he will get the reports from various experts.
Okay.
There is an answer to that situation. It's not the first time it's a listed building, fire exit, etc. But you may need a fire expert. So a fire expert guy that will give you.
He said fire engineer would be necessary to have on the team. It's impossible without him.
Who?
To build a strategy, because it's not possible to follow the standard procedure.
Sorry, what did he say?
I mean, it's necessary to hire a fire engineer because it should be specific just for this place fire escape, because it doesn't cover the standards because of
I know there's always a tendency to try and reduce your development costs, but things like fire and sound, you have to get them right, and you need to go to the right people to get the right advice. It would be foolish, extremely foolish, to skimp and save on things like that.
Yeah, I agree. So we use the company called BB7, and they are fire experts, and the BB7 they will find a strategy for you. So we got stuck with our 7 flats. If we didn't find a correct answer, and it was all to do with where the last flat was and where the exit was, and we only had one exit, and they made us put in a corridor and extra fire doors. They made us put in an AOV, which is an opening window, as I say, mist system, and then it depends at the exit and the furthest point of the flats as well. So if it's more than 40 meters, then they will ask you to do additional things. But there is an answer to that. To everything that you're saying, there's experts out there. BB7 are a fire strategy provider. But if you get a copy of their latest report or their previous reports, I'll be able to help you to indicate, yeah, you need a sound report or you need this, etc.
And it's confused me a little bit about soundproofing, especially in listed building, all houses with sash windows, one glaze windows. It doesn't matter how much you insulate from inside, you always will hear vibration from the street and noise from the street.
It's mitigation, isn't it, Franklin? It's mitigation, so that the design of the flats could be that the bedrooms are not stacked above each other, so the living rooms are not stacked above each other. There's also to do with what flooring you use, because the sound travels between the two. Yes, they may travel from the outside, but they're also worried about corridors and flats being next to each other. So that takes care of a lot of sound things. It's not just.
But that's why you need a sound expert, because sound isn't just sound. There isn't just one component. Sound, there are 2 components. There's airborne sound and there's structure-borne sound, and you need to deal with both. Otherwise, you'll fail your building regs. And there, as Sunil said, there will be, with the right specialist advice, there will be a system out there that will satisfy building control. But you've got to do your research, and you've got to get the right people in to advise you.
I think that is the key, Franklin. What John just said there, I was going to say exactly the same. You need some more experts around you. I don't mean me, John. I mean, like you said, you need a fire expert, a fire strategy expert. BB7 are one company. There's others, and sound expert, because there is an answer to your problem. It's not surmountable. It can be done.
Can I just pick up on just what Sunil said for everybody that's listening out there, in case you think let's all go out and make planning applications on other people's lands? Of course, there is nothing in the law to stop you doing that, but you would be very foolish to do that without an option agreement with the freeholder of that land, because otherwise you pay for all the planning, They say, well, thank you very much. It's very nice of you. And then they go off and build it. And if you haven't got the option agreement protecting you, you're leaving yourself very exposed. So just be aware of that.
Yeah. No, excellent point. And on that note, is there any other questions finally? Because I think we're going to wrap up because it is coming up to 7:30, 25 past. No, okay, brilliant. Thank you for all your input. Thanks for all the questions. It's been really
Well done,
good.
Stanil. Thank you.
No, thank you. Could we, yeah, we'll do one on the 4th. If Dan can help us to sort that out, we'll market that. We'll let you know about that.
Yep, sounds good.
If you got any topics that you want to discuss, let me or Dan know, and we can. As you've seen this evening, there's lots of people with lots of knowledge and that can contribute as well. So yeah, just let us know if you want to know anything. And then the in-person one Dan's actually put on there as well for November. Please book early because the room was packed out, wasn't it, John, last time? So yeah, if you're going to come, we'd love you to come, but just book early. Okay. Sorry. Vendor is trying to sell his property along with a plot of land.
That's me, Jay. I got someone who's interested. I don't know whether I should be putting it here, but just thought if someone is interested, it's 15 rooms, 15 bedrooms.
15 bedrooms, yeah. Look, if you're interested in this property, please contact Jay.
Yeah. He wants to sell the building, the property, and a plot of land next to it. So possibility of extension.
Does he have a price in mind, or?
Sorry?
Does he have a price in mind?
Yes. You can contact me. I can discuss that with you.
Okay, Jay. We'll certainly do that. But as Paul said earlier, if we buy it, we still want the commission. If we sell it, we still want commission.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm only joking. Anyway. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great evening, and we'll see you all soon. Take care. Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Dan.